Good Friday to you, everybody. Income 710. Welcome again to week boom 6 and our review of your Q&A from week 5. All right, let's get a little more coffee on board here. Much better. All right, I am here, your now sufficiently caffeinated communication instructor. Let's take a lookie at what you're doing here. Just sort of a announcement. Remember, please, that you have papers that are coming up due. I think that's on the 20th, correct? For your stage 1 of your research paper. Okay. Also, let me say a little bit about your class presentations. They're all graded and they're all in. I've got remarks from them. I think I said a little bit about them in the last video, but to reiterate, take these as seriously as you would presenting in front of an audience at a conference. Dig into the topic. I'm looking at your presentation style. I'm looking, first and foremost, at how you cover the material. So right out of the gate, you've got a very limited amount of time. So try to approach this I know it's boring, but in a straightforward, linear fashion. What is this thing? Where did it come from? That is founding and the raison d'etre. What does it do? Where is it at? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If I'm watching a presentation and I'm 5 minutes in, which is about halfway, and I still haven't heard where this entity was established and why, you're leaving your audience hanging on the edge of a gap that you've created. Don't do that. And then also pay attention to your presentation, both your style and any technological issues. There was one presentation that the audio was all out of sync with the video. Okay, so no good, no bueno. All right, and remember, when you're getting feedback on your papers and your presentations, I'm not giving you feedback about you as a person. I love you. I'm here to see to your professional development. It's work product that we're focused in on, not persona. I will tell you, I get my stuff reviewed and critiqued and sometimes rejected all the time. As a writer and a scholar, I submit papers and I go, yeah, no, I've not gotten into conferences before. I've not won scholarships. It's just life. Okay. So don't let it upset you and don't let it throw you off. All righty. Let's take a look at the questions and your answers from last week. I had you watch the documentary on Edward Bernays. Here's my position on guys like Bernays. I believe that we, the members, the professional class, sounds important, of the communication business, we have a deficit to answer for. Because communication, especially strategic communication, as an applied discipline, something that was outside of just theoretical considerations. And although scholarship into communication and communication studies places the beginning of communication studies in about the late 1800s, actually the foundational components of communication studies, in particular the study of rhetoric, how to deliver a speech and construct a persuasive argument, man, that goes way back, several thousand years. Okay. But in the modern age, communication and strategic communications as an applied discipline really takes shape in the early 20th century, and it is shaped in the hands of individuals like Edward Bernays and Joseph Goebbels, the minister of propaganda in Nazi Germany. And if you read, and I was looking around for today, I must have, before I started this video, I must have lent it to somebody. Read Bernays' work, Propaganda. And he is as plain spoken about it as you can possibly be. Likewise, as he is plain spoken about it in the documentary. And although it's a documentary, so there's there's a cinematic effect. I mean, they want you to watch, okay? It's pretty accurate. That he's pretty straightforward, and the narrator in describing it's pretty straightforward. That Bernays didn't instead now think much of you and your capacity to make decisions. Didn't think much of you, in fact, as a thinking entity, and therefore believed that for things to run smoothly, there had to be an educated, informed, people in the know, a group of folks in charge making decisions for all the rest of us, but in such a way that we, the rest of us, would feel like it was our idea. That's raw, bare knuckle manipulation. And, there is a work that I wanted to, that's this sort of Bernayian approach is not dead by any stretch. If you ever come across this guy, Robert, here, see if I can get it. So it's not a terrible, there we go. Robert Greene with an E. Okay. He published 2 books. Yeah, that's upside down. The 48 Laws of Power. And then he has another one called Seduction. And again, like Bernays, Greene is just, very, he's just real point blank about this. That it's his opinion that it's your duty. He's sort of, I don't know if you know who Ayn Rand is, the author of Atlas Shrugged and The Fountainhead. It's very much in the school of Ayn Rand. And that is, your duty is to do what's good for you. The devil will take everybody else. And here are the means by which 48 Laws of Power that you do that. And here's how you communicate your way around it. So law number 1 is never outshine the master. Always make those above you feel comfortably superior. And this is in what you say and what you do. Law number 2, never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use enemies. Be wary of friends. They will betray you more quickly, for they are easily aroused to envy. Also become spoiled and tyrannical. Law number 3, in everything you say and do, conceal your intentions. Keep people off balance and in the dark by never revealing the purpose behind your actions. And it goes on. You get the drift. Greene and his books were the darlings a few years back of corporate America and the rap industry. And, he gave talks to, I can't say that this was the individual, but to the likes of Dr. Dre and that portion of the music business. So I think that as communicators and professional communicators that we have excuse me, I'm getting a lozenge for my throat. We have a bit of a professional deficit to fill in because that is our legacy. And we need to be aware of it, understand it, and say, yeah, okay, we know this is where the discipline began, but especially us at Regent as Christian communicators, this is not where the discipline is going to go. That what we're after here is authentic communication. And here's my straightforward, simple definition of the difference between communication and guys like Bernays or Greene's manipulation. Communication, and especially for you in strategic communication, you're going to, I don't know who, what, and where, but you'll be in situations in which you're either doing your own thing or you're the spokesperson for an institution, and you're going to have to deliver unpleasant news. That's going to be in your job. All right. The difference between communication and manipulation, that is, what news you ethically you will deliver, okay, and then how you deliver it. The difference between the two is, in communication, the communicator is concerned about what's best for the communicator and what's best for the audience. In manipulation, the communicator is only concerned about what's best for the communicator. That's the case with Green and Bernays. We just saw in the documentary. Bernays, he signs on with Woodrow Wilson. They're merely concerned with getting people to buy the war to end all wars and democracy in our time, and these pitches. And Bernays like, okay, then how do we manipulate the people? It is what you aim at as an end, and then of course how you go about it, that becomes the divider between communication and manipulation. And I may have given this before, so if I'm repeating myself, pardon me. A very simple analogy to keep those two straight. Communication and manipulation are different, like a surgeon and a mugger are different. Both are going to slice you open with something sharp and take your money. But only the surgeon wants what's both best for her and for you. Oh, she wants your money and lots of it. She also wants your appendix out, or your tonsils, or your knee fixed, or whatever, and for you to go on with your day. Mugger, he don't care. He just wants your money. And if he has to stick a hole in your belly to get you to comply, to hand over the money, what happens to you after that? Not in his sphere of concern, unless it, of course, concerns getting caught and then penalties for sticking you in the belly as well as stealing your money. Okay. All right. So watch BBC documentary Edward Bernays. Briefly summarize the documentary. In doing so, answers question number 1. Who was Bernays? Why, in your opinion, might historical understanding Bernays be critical to understanding international public relations? Holly, you went first. We'll take you first. Edward Bernays was a nephew. You don't need actually in here. Was a nephew of Sigmund Freud. He was known as the father of public relations. The documentary brought up the importance of who he was. He was the first person to take Freud's ideas and then use them in order to manipulate the masses. And that's part of the legacy of our foundation in strategic communications. We don't do that. Okay. They use the example of Bernays being approached about cigarettes. They wanted him to get women to believe that cigarettes were symbols of challenging male power. During a public march, he had suffragette light up, staged suffragettes, by the way, so stand-ins, fakes, light up using the phrase "torches of freedom." Freedom to what? To get lung cancer? To develop cardiopulmonary disease? Yeah. The image, along with a slogan, helped make cigarettes sales for women rise. Cigarettes made women feel more independent. Objects can't make you more independent, but he got them to want to desire those cigarettes. And then, like the nicotine did the rest, to feel like the women in the march. So Bernays was able to be first to tap into how to transform how people think about products. Train them that man's desire overshadows their needs. Very good point here, Holly. This is sort of the centerpiece now of how advertising works. There's another work that I wanted to mention to you here, and I'm just trying to get it here because I had forgotten to pull it out, and it's on the bottom of a stack that I would rather not have topple over onto my lap here in the middle of our talk. Okay. One of the early sort of whoa alarm bells about this was sounded by Marshall McLuhan. And I'll put links to both of these books. Okay, actually 3. Bernays' Propaganda, Robert Greene's work, and then this work by Marshall. This is a harder one to find. The Mechanical Bride, Folklore of Industrial Man. Okay, in this work, what McLuhan does is he takes, now this was written in the 1950s, so it looks a little campy, but he takes ads from the 1950s and he puts them up, and he pulls them apart. He's saying, this is what they say they're saying, but this is what they're really saying. And his concern, and one that I share, is that, and it's already a fait accompli, it's gone, but in the 50s there was still a shift, is that the folklore of who we are was being altered. Now, when we say folklore, what do we mean? Folklore is the stories that a group of people tell themselves about themselves. They tell them to themselves to explain themselves to themselves. Okay? So, they can be grim stories. They can be oral histories about origins of people. If you're talking about, First Nations and Indigenous people, they can be Mother Goose. They can be Aesop's fairy tales. They're stories that we tell ourselves about ourselves to explain ourselves to ourselves. What McLuhan was seeing as a communication scholar in the 1950s was that advertising was so flooding the American storyteller landscape, overtaking, say, time sitting around and reading the Bible and drawing lessons from that, or telling bedtime stories or folklores. It became, television watching and evening movies. That the stories we were now telling ourselves to explain ourselves to ourselves were all about buying and consuming. And what made you was what you bought and consumed. And unfortunately, I think he was right. So, for instance, in the book, you'll see he'll take an ad, and this is the case. This is an ad for pantyhose. And he'll put the ad copy up, and then, he takes it's kind of a snarky book. So he's looking at this ad, okay? And the ad is saying, oh, don't you want to look your best? Don't you want to feel your best? Wear these pantyhose. And McLuhan is saying, no. What this ad is really asking you is, can the female body keep pace with the demands of the textile industry? In other words, not should fashion keep up with you, women, but could you keep up with fashion? Are you woman enough to keep changing yourself in order to wear the latest that makes you you? No bueno. Because it redefines what makes a human being, what makes a person, from a subject, from a someone, into a something that's wearing some things or consuming some things. That is objectification. All right. And McLuhan was very concerned about this. Okay. But this started, this sort of the techniques that become the means by which this is done start with Bernays. If you ever get a chance, I think it's on it's Amazon or Netflix. Watch the series Mad Men. I think it's a 7-season series. It is a 7-season commentary on the transformation of American society as driven by advertising. Very interesting. Okay. Like smoking cigarettes, like so Bernays was able to first tap into how to transform how people think, train them that man's desires overshadows their needs. In other words, the goal of the ad, of the campaign, is now to convince you what you want is what you need, and we're just like already up to our necks in that. Okay, question number 2. What does Ewan mean? And he is the author of A History of Spin. Okay, I'll put that link up there too. When he says it's not the people in charge, it's the people's desires that are in charge. Mike, when Ewan states it's not the people that are in charge, people's desire in charge, and this comes timestamp 5355. He's characterizing Bernays' ideas that people are inherently irrational and easily manipulated, and expanding on this idea in his work, PR History of Spin. Okay. And that's an excellent work. You should read that book. Ewan discusses how advertisers can circumvent logic, speak to deep-seated desires and shape wants and needs, motivate behavior, and defy logic. Ewan describes early public relations professionals as seeing their work as creating, remember this phrase, credible renditions of reality itself. Not reality, but things that just seem credible enough. As people were seen to be irrational, early public relations was a quest to help the public understand and manage the chaos of their daily lives. As chaos has a challenging effect within the constant state of chaos, truth, it seems, exists in a constant state of flux. When the public is engulfed in chaos, they can be easily swayed. Okay. And Mike, you mentioned Mad Men here. That's part of why I took this. On the subject of Mad Men, I think Matthew Weiner captured the spirit of Bernays in the scene where ad man Don Draper pitches Lucky Strikes to ANC's Mad Men, and this I think was the very first episode in which he comes into this meeting. Watch the YouTube, but he comes into this meeting completely unprepared. He doesn't know what to do. He's got no ad, and he just says, "Oh, wait a minute. You can because now they won't let you make medical claims and use doctors because they're finding out the cigarettes is bad for you." Great. Tell them it's toasted. It's creating a psychological image of what the cigarette is. It's not cancerous. It's not poisonous, which it is. It's toasted. Okay. Excellent answer. Okay. Question number 3. Consider Melendez and Lask's literature review. From the chapter, select 2 sources. The author reviews and discuss the following for both. Why do the authors select the sources? To the best of your knowledge. What do the authors have to say? How well, in your opinion, do the author's review present the sources? Okay, so here, now I'm turning you back again to sharpening your critical skills in dealing with how authors deal with material. Mike, let's go to you again. Looking at Molenda and Laskin's discussion of complexity, coordinating, controlling public relations. I chose to look at the works of Martino and Urrillo. The author I chose, Martino and Urrillo, as to study organizational structures, centralization of decision making, and informational. Let me get to. Tell me what you think about it. Okay. Where to go? I had it highlighted. Martinez and Urrillo. In the original, I explained how simple strategies demand simple coordination, so they are implemented with the use of formal structure mechanics. Okay. Within the original article, state that the more extensive global reach, the more subtle the management of the systems must become, stating that recent emphasis on subtle mechanics of coordination is becoming common in large, complex firms. Okay. Okay, so here we go. This provides valuable information and is essential to understand the goal of global business practices. Molenda and Laskins accurately portray their findings of the original article and summarize it well. Okay, so you liked it. Good. All right. Now, the particulars of this question was not, to get you to understand the research. The particulars of this question is to get you to be critical of the research. Last question, question 4, is more of a what do you understand or what do you think about the research? Question 4, according to Lieber and Higgins, is there an ethical code for international public relations? Why or why not? In your opinion, should there be an ethical code? Justify your answer. Okay, NASA. Yes, Lieber and Higgins say that there's an international code of public relations, but they were also honest about the fact that no single code of ethics could be applied to every news organization. I don't think something like this can exist across the same states or countries, really what we were after here, let alone the same countries. Okay. Working in PR in California, for example, has been vastly different from working PR in Texas. So while I don't think that there should definitely be a code of ethics, I think there should be more general knowledge that everybody should abide by. Okay. Good question. Difficult question. Because first of all, how would you enforce it? And then secondly, what are the standards for this code? Now, I'm not saying, therefore it's a PR free for all. All right. But that's a real problem. I've worked as a professional photographer in a number of countries. And there's a code of ethics for photographers. No one's ever stopped me at the border and said, hey, let's take a look at those pictures. Are you in line with the code of ethics? Organizations don't do that. I mean, unless I pick something, unless I pictured something that was just like really out there, like whoa. In fact, I've been not yelled at, but not given the most warm and welcome reception by heads of organizations when they thought that my pictures weren't sad enough. I'm like, okay. Now, for me, I have a code that I abide by. I don't take pictures that ridicule and make people look ridiculous. All right. I always take and develop pictures, construct pictures. You don't really take a picture, you build a picture. It's not, it's like writing an essay. Okay. You construct an essay. You don't just wander around writing down everything you hear. So you don't wander around the camera going click, 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 click. All right. You construct the image. And so I don't construct images that make people look ridiculous, and I don't construct images meant to humiliate or use somebody as a means to an end. All right. That's, to me, is unethical. All right. So, difficult question. Should there be? Probably. Can there be? Where is it, and how would you enforce it? All right. Okay, everybody. Good job. I hope you enjoy reading the selection from my research this week, and we'll talk about that next week. So have a great, great weekend. I'm thinking about you. I'm praying about you. Those of you, have contacted me and said, you having some health issues and personal issues. I'm praying that you find, first of all, the grace to navigate them, and then that, God willing, taken out of your path. All right. I'll post the parameters for the second class presentation coming here in the next week. And, so for this weekend, just focus on the readings, questions, and answers, and your papers. God bless. See you on Canvas. Bye-bye.